A big Vladimir Guerrero Jr. injury update has been revealed by manager John Schneider following today's spring training game. So I'll break that down, which gives us a bit of an insight as to when we may be able to expect Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to return to action. And we'll also break down the Phillies game today that was unfortunately not televised, but we saw a lot of good things, including another George Springer home run. So we'll break that down and much more on this episode of Jay's Digest. What's up, Jays fans? Nick Gosse, your host of Jay's Digest. And before we do get into the news and the game recap, make sure to hit the subscribe button. It means the world to us. We're on the road to 6,600 subscribers. So make sure to hit that button. And the support has been great on the live streams, on the videos, on everything. And we're doing our best to provide you guys with the best Blue Jays content we can. So hitting the subscribe button would mean the world. And let's just get right into the first topic of today's video, which is a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. injury update. So following this afternoon's game, and there was also an injury update revealed yesterday, John Schneider spoke out on Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s health status, and I'll pop up the screenshot right here from Hazel May as of around 45 minutes ago. So Vladimir Guerrero Jr., of course with his knee inflammation, ran the bases today, and quote, he felt good and continues to make progress, according to John Schneider. He'll run the bases again tomorrow, and a decision will be made on when he returns to game action. And of course, Thomas Hall quoting that with more encouraging news on Vladdy's health status, and then Keegan Matheson with a bit more insight, basically said the same thing, but if that goes well, the boxes will be checked and the Blue Jays can plan his return to action. So this is very, very good news because, of course, with an injury of Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s stature, running the bases is the most important thing. Hitting is not going to be affected too much by a knee injury. Fielding will, of course, be affected a little bit, but running the bases is the key here. And if he ran the bases today well and he continues to run them well tomorrow, then we can maybe expect a return early next week. Now, I saw yesterday or the day before, I don't believe it was from Hazel May, it was from a different writer, I believe, who was on camp. They said that the aim, if Vladimir Guerrero Jr. continues to progress the way he is progressing, which is very, very well, is for him to play next week, whether that be early next week or late next week. I'm not entirely sure, but some point in early or late next week is the goal for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Alejandro Kirk as well, who of course is returning from the birth of his kid. So that'll wrap up the news section. Let me know in the comments section what your thoughts are about that, and hopefully Vladimir Guerrero Jr. can return and continue to mash in spring training. But let's move on now to the game recap portion where the offense stays hot. Of course, the Blue Jays took down the Phillies today 8-3, and the offense looked very, very good. Now, the game wasn't televised, so we had to listen on the radio, which is a bit harder to do when you're, of course, doing a game recap like this because you're not able to see everything. But Ben Wagner did an amazing job today and does an amazing job in general. So let's just get right into the first George Springer. We'll just talk about him immediately. You can look at the box score here. He went 2 for 3 with another home run. Now, George Springer has been one of the highlights of camp so far for the Toronto Blue Jays, and he said before camp that he is fully healthy and he's ready to go. Now, me and Peter had a couple questions about that when he would take a swing earlier on in spring training, and it looked like he was nursing an injury a little bit. It was looking like he was hurt, but he was DHing today, playing the second game in a row, and hit another home run, his third of the spring, and he has looked absolutely phenomenal. So I just want to give some credit to George Springer. He's looked great. I believe it was 423 feet to center, as Keegan Matheson, who is on site, so he saw it in person, said George Springer just launched one to right center, 423 feet for a solo shot, which again is very, very impressive. And as a whole, he's been very impressive. George Springer's been unbelievable this spring, and he's been unbelievable as a Blue Jay. The only knock in his contract so far has been his health, and if he's able to be fully healthy this year, playing right field, which is less taxing than center field, then it'll be unbelievable to see how far he can take the Blue Jays. And again, another thing I want to mention really quickly is that usually, if you're familiar with our game recap style, we have highlights and game clips within the game. Because the game wasn't televised today, there was none that were readily available. And a lot of people on Twitter who tend to maybe post them or talk about it are of course watching the Team Canada game that is going on as I'm recording this right now and started up halfway through the Jays game. But if you want to find it, then you might be able to find it online. But either way, George Springer absolutely mashed. And let's talk about some more of the offensive players. Addison Barger was unbelievable today as well. He continues to hit the ball well. I believe he got a single. Kevin Biggio continues to shine. Brian Nunez, the 26th ranked prospect, I believe, continued to do well. Matt Chapman had a rough game in the field, but a pretty good hitting game. And Dalton Varsho did very solid. He went 1 for 2 with 2 RBIs, and Dalton Varsho is someone who's had a slow start to spring. His defense has been fine, but he's had a slow start to spring with the bat, and it's very, very exciting to see him start to finally turn it around. And like Peter mentioned in yesterday's video, Dalton Varsho's looking comfortable again. It's simple as that. He's looking comfortable. He's looking familiar with, he's looking familiar at the plate, and he's looking very, very comfortable. So it was great to see him get a couple RBIs. And then finally, we had Zach Britton, who is a fringe player. He's 25 years old. He launched one, hit a 3-run home run, and it was great to see that. Or I guess hear about that if you're a fan, because we weren't able to be at the game. But overall, the offense absolutely shined today, which was very, very good. And let me know in the comments who impressed you the most if you listen to the radio broadcast or just based on these stats. But let's move on now to the pitching, which was Kikuchi Struggles a little bit. But the pitching as a whole held the fort down pretty well. And I'll pop up the screenshot here now. And you can see that it's missing a couple players. For some reason, it didn't update. But Yusei Kikuchi went 2 2/3, gave up 4 hits, 3 walks, and 4 strikeouts. And the storyline for him all spring has been how well he's been. Of course, prior to this start, he went 7 innings with 1 hit ball, and the 1 hit was a little dribbler that didn't even get like 2 feet past home plate. But today was his first real struggle of the camp. Now, he gave up 3 walks, his control wasn't there, and like me and Peter have discussed on this show before, his control with his fastball hasn't looked great all spring. His off-speed stuff has looked phenomenal, and that's got him by, but today his fastball control was no better. It was pretty poor, and again, 3 walks. Not great. Though he did have 4 strikeouts, and a big thing here is he gave up no runs, which, if you're familiar and watched the Jays last year, Yusei Kikuchi, when he would fall apart, he would really fall apart and give up a ton of runs. So it's good to see him show some sort of resilience, especially given the fact the defense let him down. I believe it was 2 or 3 errors today. The defense was sloppy on both sides for the Phillies and the Blue Jays, but Matt Chapman had a pretty costly error that ultimately snowballed into him allowing some base runners, some walks, some hits when they could have gotten out of the inning. So I don't know. Overall, it was a pretty rough game for the defense, but I'm pleased with Kikuchi's outing today. Of course, it was not very good. He gave up 4 hits and 3 walks, but he battled and didn't give up an earned run, which is very good. And looking at some of the other pitchers, Anthony Bass struggled as well today. But again, like we've discussed on here a lot, the results is not really what matters in spring training, especially for veterans like Anthony Bass, who's a veteran in this league, a veteran reliever who's very, very good. You don't worry about the results. You worry about, especially for the pitchers, they're just trying new things, maybe trying a new pitch, trying a new grip. Looking at the intangible stuff that might not necessarily show up on the score sheet, or in this case, negatively impacts the score sheet where he gave up 3 runs. But he didn't look good today, but at the end of the day, he did what he could, and I'm not too concerned about it. Luke Barrett continues to have a fairly good spring after his initial, poor start. And then we also had Paul Fry, who's another lefty and battling for that spot, who had an okay outing. He's battling with Jimmy Burnett maybe for another lefty spot, or maybe the first lefty to be called up. And then other than that, the people missing on here, Junior Fernandez gave up 1 hit in a scoreless inning of work, and Eric Swanson continues to impress with his pitches, gave up no hits in a clean inning of work. Yeah, so that'll wrap up the pitching side again. Nothing too bad. Very solid pitching overall. Only gave up 3 earned runs. All of them were Anthony Bass. And Yusei Kikuchi, I mean, he got the win today, and he gave up no runs in the meantime, so you can't complain too much, but his control is definitely something to look at going forward. So yeah, one final thing we'll touch on before we do wrap up this video is Bichette. Just want to touch on him really quickly, and he continues to impress. Now, there's a reason I glanced over him in the game feed there, the log. But he continues to be absolutely phenomenal. And you can see his name isn't here. For some reason, the stats were weird. But Bichette today did very, very well. He went 2 for 2, Bichette did today, which is just, he continues to mash the ball. That's ultimately what it comes down to. He hasn't hit for a lot of power, surprisingly, this spring. But overall, he's played very, very well. He's played very good defense, which is very, very encouraging. And as you continue to hit the ball, whether it's the other way. Of course, in a couple videos back, I showed you his double, which was an unbelievable plate approach. But whether it's his, his extra base hits, his singles, his home runs and power, which will ultimately come, he's very, very, been very impressive this spring. And if he can, again, we've mentioned this 100 times, if he can improve his defense and become even a league average defender, he will be one of the most valuable players in the league because his hitting is just that good. He's put up phenomenal worst seasons already with some of the worst defense in the league. If he can improve that and maybe turn into even an above average defender, then the sky is the absolute limit for Bichette. And again, he went 2 for 2 today. Some of the stats were weird, maybe because this game wasn't televised, but not all the websites were updated. But he did unreal today. And overall, it was just a very, very good day for Bichette. And I'm excited to see what he can do come the regular season. And I don't know, he's been one of the best players on the Blue Jays since he's come up, and one of the best hitters in the MLB, leading the league in hits a couple times. And overall, he's just been phenomenal. So I just wanted to highlight him. But that'll wrap up the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Of course, Team Canada is playing as we speak, and Peter will be going live. If you're watching this right when it uploads, Peter will be going live in a couple hours. The game has taken forever, but again, the support's been unbelievable. Thank you so much. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, as we continue our daily game preview streams and our daily videos. So thank you again. It means the world, and we'll catch you in tomorrow's video. Cheers.